Manoli. G'day everyone. Jock,
Hi, mate.
how are ya?
I'm very well. Can't complain.
That's right.
Other
That's
than
right.
other than being in lockdown, but other than
Yeah,
that,
well,
I've
that's
got
true.
I've got whiskey. I've
Oh,
got some Scottish biscuits. I'm a happy man.
beauty, mate. I got a cup of tea, and I got some artist
Biscuits.
nice stickies. Trust me, that's not me normally. But
Have you
yeah.
have you
So
are you eating biscuits in honor of me?
yeah, well, I thought you'd have a cup of tea and Vicky, so I thought I'll do it too. But normally I would have had a beer, but that's all right. I like a cup of tea.
I kind of thought, it's 7 o'clock. I've been working from home all day, and I thought, right, that's
Yeah,
it. It's time. It's time. We're well
that's
past
it.
midday.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Midday. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I just thought I'd get you on and just have a chat because your the last shot just inspired me so much. A lot of it resonated with me. I wrote a bit down
Wow.
because I've got a memory like a sieve. Just ask my wife. So I just needed to just so because I start talking and I just forget where I even started. So I just wanted to really nail a couple of things that really resonated with me throughout the book. And I think one of the first things really was the amount of ups and downs you had throughout your life
Yeah.
is, and that sort of resonated with me because I'm at this point in my life now, how I've changed careers and I'm feeling I can't stuff this up. I've got to everything's got to work out nicely, but I'm forgetting that,
Yeah.
it's just a season and I've just got to ride it out. So I just sort of like to see you go up and down so much. And then look where you are, now Masterchef, world-renowned chef, Arana, all that, to see where you come from and your whole life, it sort of just made me go, okay, just relax and enjoy this moment. Enjoy this season.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny you call them seasons, and it's also funny, I relate a lot to you and did when you were on the show, obviously, and we both got a son called Alfie. That was enough for me to go, oh, he's a good guy, clearly.
yeah.
But I kind of thought, for me, it's the worst place that somebody like us could go is on a TV show, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it was. I could see that in you, and obviously we'll talk about that probably later. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I just as your time in the kitchen went on, I thought this guy's more and more like me than anyone I've met before. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
can't. The similarities of I've seen the weird things that I do when I get anxious.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen you do them, and it
Yeah.
just kept increasing to the point. But anyway, like I say, we'll talk about that later. But what I wanted to say is, isn't it funny? Like the worst place that you could probably have went is a TV show, both of us, and there we were. We did it, and mate, you did fantastically well on the show. But look, the book, yes, ups and downs. My God, I
Yeah.
mean, there's you could talk about it for hours. But I think everyone has ups and downs in their life. I just think mine were really extreme.
Extreme. Yeah.
The
That's exactly
highs
right.
were really
Yeah.
high, and the lows were really low.
Yeah.
And I think I think there's a lot of people in my family always used to say that's what gives people color and character, and that sort of stuff. I was actually talking to someone the other day that said, the tough bits or bullying or stuff like that makes your skin thicker. It's like, fuck off, makes your skin
Yeah.
thick. Don't bullshit. Like this idea that you should have thick skin in the first place is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
it's like, if you're going through a hard time, don't tell somebody. The last thing you want to hear is it'll just make your skin thicker or whatever. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
If you see someone go through a hard time, don't tell them that. Give them a hug and go,
Exactly
you know
right.
what? It'll be fine. The sun will set tonight, it'll go back up tomorrow, and it's a new day. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly right. I actually was talking to Sean tonight. We're talking about obviously your ups and downs and how you still managed to end up like where you are now, which is like if you've read the book and the start of the book isn't showing that you're going to end up where you are now.
No.
We were talking about like the comeback from the setback, and the comeback from the setback is where you grow, and that's just, you know, it's a continual comeback from a setback, and then that's when you grow, and that's exactly what happened. Sort of, you know, my Masterchef journey was exactly that. You know, it wasn't. I always thought that like it was going to be to get as far as I could and win, but it wasn't that. My journey was not ever going to be that. It was something totally different, and yeah. That's about that.
Do you think that everyone goes through like, you know, I'm going to get all spiritual and shit now, but like I think that people have got a path in life that they were destined to follow, and no matter how much you try and escape it, you end up on it. You know, like 100%. I think it's, you know, there's something to be said for destiny. There's definitely something to be said for karma. It's a thing, you know, and I think that many points in my life I've felt it, and I've felt that when I'm in the darkest of moments, or, you know, at my most anxious, that in my head I know that, you know, this is the way it was supposed to be, and therefore it'll be all right. It might take a day, it might take a week, a month, or whatever, but it'll be all right, you know? And sometimes you need people around you to tell you that as well, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you can't pull yourself out of that funk, you know? You need to you need someone around you to recognize it, or, you know, like I said, just give you a bloody hug, frankly, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I totally believe in that, because there's just too many things that like happen throughout your life where you're like, that was just weird that happened. So I truly believe that like we're all on this little journey, and it's our destiny to, you know, do whatever it is. So yeah, spiritual, just let's keep pushing that if you want. That's fine, because I truly believe in it. But
I'll tell you something else someone told me was the other, and this was a psychologist of mine, was that, and it was a psychologist that managed to actually make me believe that I had some issues that I needed to address while I was lying on a sofa. She said that in life, you travel through life and you meet people, for better, for worse, good people, bad people, fleeting chances of meeting people, and like metaphorically, they attach themselves to you with a fish hook, with a fishing line. And then by the time you go through life, you've got all these hooks stuck in you with all this wire going to these people that you've met along the way. And some of them are absolutely worthless, and you should never even think about them for a moment. But as you go through life, there's this tangle of, you know, of things. And you subconsciously keep a little bit of everyone you've met along the way. And sometimes you just got to unhook. You got to get rid of idiots out of your life, or do you know what I mean? And I think we spend so much time these days, and a big part of it's social media, sadly, is that we worry about what other people think too much, because on social media you kind of get that feedback, good or bad, and you can't avoid it. Do you know what I mean? It's like you know, like online trolling or bullying or whatever. Back in the old days, if you had a difference of opinion with someone, or you wanted to bully them, you had to stand in front of them. You had to face up to them in the playground and look them in the eye and be prepared to back up why you didn't like them or why you wanted to bully them or troll them. You know what I mean? And it's just not like that anymore. You've got idiots, professional or otherwise, who hide behind a keyboard or an iPhone or whatever on social media. I think it's horrible. So that unhooking of stuff and kind of blocking yourself out from that stuff, I think is a big part of definitely of anyone's mental health and how you feel every day, and knowing that tomorrow's another day. It doesn't matter, you know, because people like that, they'll be on to something else tomorrow, you know?
Yeah, exactly right. You know, that I love that because like you can just feel sometimes that people are like just pulling you in, you know, from every different angle. And also like with you saying about the bullying online and social media, most of that stuff that's said these days, if it wasn't for social media, they wouldn't say it to your face. Like they, you know, just got this little screen that like is your little protector, and you can just throw meaningless nothing comments at people just for, I don't know, I mean, honestly don't know why, if it just makes you feel that little bit better. But it's just, it's the world we're sort of drifting towards, isn't it? It's like it's not getting any better.
It's funny because social media is the thing that, you know, kind of really did bring a lot of people together, you know, and you know, it's had amazing benefits, but like everything, you know, there are setbacks that I think as a community globally, we need to work on, you know?
It's the old double-edged sword.
Yeah, Loz is just saying to me, it's the only other platform of anything or business that calls their customers users. Drugs and social media. So true.
There you go. Put them two together.
So bad. It's so bad.
They're probably the two worst addictions in life, I reckon.
Yeah, they could be, for sure.
Also, the big name restaurants that you were talking about and the big name chefs in the 90s and that, I just thought that was like, I like took myself back to there thinking like I was just on the side of you, like your little mate, as you're cruising, like going through all the restaurants and, you know, obviously Marco and Gordon and, you know, all those ones we know now. But like back then, 90s, I was just imagining how loose it would have been and how different to what it is now. Like, I thought it was great and also props to you for reading the book too, because I got the Audible and I think it's so much better because obviously, you know, if I start reading when I go to bed, I get to page 2 and I'm out, like solidly out.
Which is sleep.
Yeah, so I just get Audibles and then I can work all day. And I always love when the person who writes the book reads it because I'm just like, I feel like I get another level of the book. So props to you for doing that because that was really good.
Mate, I reckon it would have took me longer to decide who to read it than for me to read it myself.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really did because when you were talking about all the restaurants and the big chefs, I was literally pretending I was there and going through the whole story. So that was really good to sort of hear. And obviously, like people, we could talk all night about that, but people need to read the book to really get into that. But any like real like memories that you remember, like pivotal moments, or just even one that you really, really remember that you like, you'd love to share?
About anything in particular?
Just sort of like about the, you know, the restaurants back in the 90s, or, you know, when it was really intense, and the, you know, the, you know, sort of hierarchy sort of thing that you had to go through and all the big name chefs. Anything there, sort of a bit of goss?
I think in those days, kitchens were very different than they are now, you know? And it's, you know, I think all of the big guys have said it, you know, and Gordon and Marco and everyone have all sort of said, hey, you know, like the way kitchens were back in the day would be considered illegal now, from working hours through the, you know, the environment. It's just, it's a funny thing and a good thing that our industry has sort of taken this turn to cleaning itself up. And it was long overdue, you know. But it's, when you're in it, I've got to say, you don't know any better. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like in the book, when you're talking about Turnberry or then you start working in Michelin star kitchens, you don't know any different than working, you know, the hours that you do, because that's all you know. And you've never worked in a food factory or, you know, a pub maybe, or a, you know, a cafe where you only worked, you know, 7 or 8 hours a day. I never experienced that, so I didn't know. So when you're doing 18-hour days, you just, it's normal. You don't know any different. So
it's not normal at all.
Wind the clock on. Yeah, wind the clock on sort of 5 years. You're working in London and you're doing those kind of hours, and the high pressure environments. There's loads going on in the kitchen. You normalize it, and a lot of, like, my psychologist is like, it's like, Stockholm syndrome, but like drawn out for your career. Yeah. It's like horrific, And I know, like, I've got a 20-year-old daughter, so I think that generation are talking about having, maybe 3 careers during their lifetime, or 4 careers during their lifetime. And back then, that was not something that was even an option. It was like you picked a career, and that was it. That was the career for the rest of your life. And there seemed to be a big sort of emphasis put on that by your parents, by school, teachers, and there was a career advisor, I remember, when I was at high school, and I said that I was going to be a chef, and they said, well, it's not a proper job, was what I got told, And it's like, well, yeah, and back then it wasn't considered a proper job. When we were at school, the only way that you could learn to cook, like learn recipes or whatever at school, was a subject called home economics. And home economics, you wore a penny, and they taught you how to make scones and do fucking ironing. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of like home stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember doing home economics, and getting laughed at through the window by other lads in my year because I was wearing a penny, and I was the only. I think it was maybe me and 1 or 2 other boys in the class, and the rest were girls. You know what I mean? Yeah. It definitely wasn't a glamorous job. It was a job that you did if you couldn't get qualifications, if you weren't smart at school. It was a job that you didn't need an education really to get into. And so I've got to say that, wind it forward to working in Michelin-star restaurants anywhere in the UK or down in London, it's kind of, we were all a bunch of misfits. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a few people that were absolutely not misfits, who were very intelligent people. But there was a lot of us that didn't finish school. There was a lot of us that didn't get high grades, or hardly any of us went to university. We tended to focus on school. And so you were surrounded by very adult, very grown up, very mature people. And I was in those kitchens at a very young age, as you read in the book. And therefore you start to emulate the behavior of them. You start to look at the way they hold themselves, the way they talk, the way they drink, the way they party, do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, before long, you're in that fold. And because you don't know any better, that's normal. You've just normalized a whole heap of really bad behavior in the workplace and out of it, and it's just the way it was. And I don't think you can blame anyone for that. I think it was just the way it was. Like, and I don't blame anyone for it in the book. I own every bad decision I've ever made, and I'm happy to do it. But I think there's a lesson there for people to just stop for a second, look around them and go, is this normal? You know what I mean?
100%. I think it's actually funny. Another sort of reason why this book resonated with me, because I feel like sort of the trade industry was a lot like sort of the cooking industry sort of, years ago when I sort of first got into it. It was like there were, as you're coming in, you're just getting like tricks played on you. Like there was a hierarchy, definitely. And, as an apprentice, you just get like torn to shreds every day. And, it sort of stopped just as I sort of just the tail end of my apprenticeship, and then sort of things sort of changed really a lot different. Like it was a lot of more, like not even mental health, but just like looking after people in the industry, in the trades. So I sort of got the tail end of it, and it probably wasn't even that bad. But like I just knew.
Can I ask you? If was the trade for you? I mean, you were a Boilermaker, right? For any new players that are watching this, was like in hospitality there was this sort of, and to a degree there still is, from people in my generation anyway, where there's an unwillingness to divulge everything that kind of goes on. Do you know what I mean? And you kind of, there was this, how can I put it? You as an apprentice learn a huge amount of knowledge on your career, and 9 times out of 10 you fast tracked your career by working in these establishments or places or whatever, right? In the food industry, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it was almost like an exchange for the privilege of learning 4 times faster than somebody who was at a pub or a cafe. You just put up with the shit, right? And you were happy to do it because it meant that you accelerated your career. When you then went and worked somewhere else, you know, you got paid way more because you'd worked at one of these really great places, and everyone knew they were really hard, and they knew that you were probably going to be better than anyone else your age or any other applicants that were there, right? Was it the same for you in the trade industry or a bit different?
No, it definitely have like similar sort of things, but I don't think it sort of like working at any sort of particular place didn't really give you anything. It didn't boost you at all. It was more like how good you were would like be your pay rate, like how much you knew. And with like especially boiler making, there's so many things you can get like certified on that would just increase everything. So I think it's more like you've got to make the initiative to do these extra things. Yeah. And your work might not do it. It might do it, but it's up to you to sort of get these other things that will then sort of help you down the track. But
and tell me then, did that mean that you, for example, because you were very successful in your trade, right? Yeah. Did that mean that you ended up working extra hours in order to achieve those extra credits and milestones in accreditation?
Yeah,
like as in you ended up working more than 8 hours a day, but you were happy to do it because you were getting better, faster.
Yeah. Look, a good company would like maybe pay for the course or like let you do it during work time sort of thing. You know, like a good company would just be like, all right, do it on Friday, go to your tape or go to wherever it is, get coded or get whatever it is certified, and then, you know, it helps them, I guess, too. Helps the company, helps the worker. But it's definitely like the only time you worked like big hours is you just want the money, overtime. That's it. The overtime pay.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's sort of what you do that for. But like, it's such a slippery slope, especially with I think trades and like cooking, because like you get that wrong person who's guiding you through your apprenticeship, and you're going to pick up all these bad habits and just shit work ethic that when you get to, you know, become a tradie, you're just so useless.
Sure.
And there's heaps of them around. Don't worry about that. I'll tell you right now. But I was lucky enough that I had a really good one, and I always made sure that when I took like, I had like heaps of apprentices underneath me, and I made sure that they were like the best worker they could be when they left, because I thought it was just unfair. It was like, you're going to send them out without knowing anything, and they're just going to crash straight away. Like, you know, so I took it on myself to always make sure that I did the best, as my best job I could do by teaching them.
Hey, someone's just asked what's your go-to Macca's order. Go on, hit me with it.
Oh, Macca's order. All right, so I'll get the Big Mac. I'm always a Big Mac.
Big Mac.
Big Mac. Yep, definitely Big Mac, man. Loaded up with chips on the burger.
You put chips in the burger? Stop it.
Yeah, straight on. And then, because 9 times out of 10, I'm normally driving somewhere, so I'm just like, so it's, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone sort of ordeal. What about you?
I've got to be honest. I drive past McDonald's and go to Grilled. Mate, I love their burgers. Grilled. I love the burgers, and I love they've got this thing called healthy fried chicken. Honestly, Yeah, but do you know what? It's so, like you eat it and you go, "There's no way this is healthy." So I don't know if it's a ruse that
Yeah.
it's actually. I don't know what's going on, but it's pretty good.
What does healthy mean? What does healthy have to mean?
Exactly. But
Yeah.
I get one of their burgers, the one with the barbecue in it, and then I get the healthy fried chicken and I put it in the burger. Extra
Yeah.
barbecue sauce, and then I smash that.
Yeah.
Delicious. The best.
Delicious.
I love it.
Oh, I'll have to try that one. All right, I got to go down to my book because I forgot where we're at. I'm only like here. You know that.
Nice.
All right, so I think I want to talk about one thing that would have absolutely wrecked me. I reckon would have like broken everything inside of me is Arana opening night.
Yeah.
I honestly think that like no one turned up.
No, it was such a, and so I had obviously we had a team of amazing individuals who, you know, I was in the doldrums, to be honest with you. You know, we were sitting in a restaurant that had, and we owned two restaurants almost at the same time. They were about 2 weeks apart or a week apart. We opened Street ADL downstairs.
Yep.
We opened Arana upstairs. And so downstairs was flat out busy, bar, street food, you know, like it was pumping, really good. But upstairs, and we did that deliberately because we knew that what we were trying to do was pretty like not a wanted commodity, let's say, in the dining scheme of things, especially not in Adelaide.
Yeah.
And we were sitting down at the tables that we had bought from Gumtree, eBay, picked off the side of the road, sanded, stained, reupholstered chairs. Do you know what I mean? And we were, and when I say we, I'm talking about my team. So restaurant manager and his two IC, my sommelier, my head chef, some boys in the kitchen. And I just remember sitting at the table going, this is like, it's cost everything I've got, but it's also the most depressing moment, you know, to know that my biggest fear had pretty much come true, which was that nobody would walk through the door and that there was no bookings and there was no whatever. And, you know, we couldn't, I guess, and you know, one of the things I didn't put in the book was, we were sitting there, I had a PR back then called Lotus PR, and Monica Brown was the owner and also my sort of PR person. And she said, it's pointless doing a big hoo-ha in an opening because people don't want to eat what you're cooking.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's like, and maybe they do want it, but they definitely don't know it. And so nobody's coming. Even if we do a big hoo-ha, it's just going to cost you, you know, to do a big grand opening that you can't actually afford because you've got no money. So like someone's got to pay for, you know, when you do an opening and you lay on the booze and the food and the whatever, it comes at a cost. It's not for free. And so she said, you just got to, like, you know, and she had a plan, which I write about in the book, that, you know, there was some overseas media and PR that was being done to try and sort of, I guess, work out, impress upon Australians that this was something that meant something and should mean something to all Australians. But yeah, that first night was tough, mate. It really knocked me for six. You know, in the first week, to be honest with you. I mean, once it started growing, I always felt like we just never caught up. Do you know what I mean? Like we just never caught up. It was so slow. This, and people call it organic growth or whatever you want to call it. It was like so hard, and we were always behind the eight ball constantly, and that was really tough. You know.
Yeah. I never got to go to Arana, which is a big, which really sucks because like I love that because it's just like you go through the book so many times, like just questioning why we weren't using indigenous and native ingredients more. Like
Yeah.
And it's said throughout the book so many times, like it almost like I can feel that it just made you like, it just made you so angry, like why we weren't using them, and they're on our doorstep.
Yeah, it did. And the thing is it's not for the want of trying. There were some amazing pioneers that came long before I even took an interest in it. Andrew Felke, Vic Cherikov, there was Edna's Table in Sydney at the beginning that tried, and I've got to say, it's great trying. It's even like, for me, it's like you can try all you want, but if people get facial neuralgia when they eat it, I mean, it's not taking off. You know what I mean? And certainly when I got to Australia, it was like, all those amazing pioneers had come long before I even got interested in it. But let's not forget, Indigenous Australians had been eating it, using it to the best of its natural self for 60,000 years. So anyone that thinks for a moment that it's not worth acknowledging needs their head looking at. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's like, come on. It's probably one of the world's most, like important resources of knowledge and culture in the world. You know, I've always said it, and I still say it today. And there'll come a time when the world looks at it and says, hang on a minute, maybe we should update Wikipedia that the first loaf of bread maybe wasn't where it's currently put. That, the first loaf of bread undoubtedly was made here in Australia by Indigenous people. Get a grip of yourselves, you know what I mean? But, that'll come in time, mate. And I think the thing I've learned over the years is that you can't, the more angry and upset you get, the more local you sound and the less people listen to you. You know what I mean?
The more it pushes you to the side.
Yes. You become an outlier,
What else? Oh, so actually I've had a lot of people ask, put a little thing out the other day to any questions that people want to ask you. And I had a lot of people actually asking how to sort of get into the Indigenous native ingredients, or any tips on starting to cook with them, or, trying to find where they are. Obviously I would say with the Masterchef garden is epic. It's got a lot in there, which is I love that. And I always found that they're very strong flavored. And you got to be careful how you sort of use them. That's what I personally found. I didn't do a lot of cooking with them, but yeah.
But isn't that a good thing as a chef? Now that you've got some good solid understanding of cooking and flavor and the process of cooking, isn't it interesting that as a chef we look for things that are powerful in flavor and aroma? Because we when you add too much of something in order to get the essence of the flavor, you almost devalue it in a way. And so we're always looking for things that have punch and power and flavor, because you can add them in such a small quantity. And when you cook them, the flavor and the aromas are still there, and all these other things, right? One of the amazing things about those ingredients are bitterness and astringency. So when we talk about the 5 tastes, sweet, sour, bitter, umami, right? And bitterness, and I know astringency isn't technically on the 5 tastes, but astringency and bitterness, if it's evident in an ingredient that you're cooking with, it means that you need to balance in order to bring harmony, right? You need to add more or less or different ingredients in order to bring balance to your dish. If you've got something that's naturally bitter or astringent, that is the most valuable thing you can have as a chef. Trust me, because it means that you need to then layer all these different flavors to bring that balance. And that's when you go to, when you go to a restaurant and you eat something and you go, what is that? How have they done that? That is because there are the 5 tastes are all in there, and they're in harmony and in balance. And you need the bitterness to do that. And if you throw in astringency in there on top of it, all of a sudden you've got another layer in order to build this layers of flavor to bring balance. And that's what we did at Arana. And that's why a lot of these Australian ingredients are so relevant to high gastronomy, to everyday gastronomy and fast food or whatever. People just haven't quite worked it out yet, you know? In answer to the question, Andrew Felke's got an amazing website called Creative Native. You can Google it. You can buy dehydrated products, fresh products, frozen products. And so he does some amazing stuff as well. When stuff comes in fresh, when it's in season, he does like sort of, it's almost like you need to be quick. So he puts it on and he said, I've only got, 30 kilos of fresh bunny nuts or whatever. First in, best dressed. You got to be on it. But a great resource and a guy who's got an incredible amount of knowledge. Vic Cherikov, more academic, has written some fascinating papers about indigenous ingredients and the health benefits and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty cool. And then Australian superfoods. So if you Google Australian superfood, they've got a huge amount of ingredients, including freeze-dried ones, which are super cool for desserts, super cool for adding to, like shakes even, you know what I mean? To make them like, like gubbins, freeze-dried gubbins, for example, to add to a shake, boosts your vitamin C tenfold. There's a lot. There's also some great book. I've seen someone ask a question about books. A couple of my favorites currently, Blue Tracks by Dr. Terry Janke. Blue Tracks is an amazing book. Dr. Terry Janke is I would say Australia's leading Indigenous IP lawyer, and she talks a lot about in her book. It's not long been released about Indigenous culture and the reason for protecting IP and what it means for Indigenous people. It's a really good read. And for some people who are maybe new to it, you might want to put that fourth or fifth in your stack of reading. But it is, I think people need more knowledge. It's like, it's okay to say, I want to use the ingredients, but I think it's like anywhere, you need to know more about the culture, right? Like, I think that's all I ever tried to do, was to understand more. Dr. Philip Clark has written some amazing books about Indigenous ingredients and Indigenous culture as well. He's fantastic. Like I say, Vic Cherikov's written some really cool papers about it. Andrew Felke's website's got a great resource. There's also the Australian Bushfood Alliance, who've launched a website. So Raylene Brown, who was on the Northern Territory trip that we went on. Sadly, you were out skiing by that time, but Raylene's recently taken over as the head honcho of that, and they're basically trying to get themselves up as being the peak body and being able to be essentially a resource as a peak body, as they will be, so that people can connect with the ingredients in a way that is meaningful and is correct and proper, and you know what I mean, and trying to buy from Indigenous owned businesses first whenever you can. Do you know what I mean? It's like something that I always stick by. It's like, if you can buy from an Indigenous company owned first, like there's a company called Something Wild, Daniel Motlop, based in Adelaide, Indigenous owned company, brilliant products, fresh and other products, really, really good. And then you go to the next tier, then you're looking for a company that might not be Indigenous owned, it might be part Indigenous owned or not Indigenous owned, but have clear pathways of purchasing from Indigenous people on country to support Indigenous businesses that maybe don't want to be in a CBD, selling goods to chefs or whatever. They want to be on country, wild harvesting or whatever, right? And that, I think that's super important as well. So that's my advice to that person. Sorry, that was a really long answer for a very short question.
No, yeah, but it was really good. It's good stuff. Because like I honestly think it's an absolute like disgrace what we get taught at schools, Australian schools, of our like the indigenous past, and it's just sort of rushed over. And I don't know what it is today, but when I was going through high school, it definitely was. So like this whole trip, we're going around Australia with the bus. If we ever get there, when I finally build it,
mate, the bus. Like, I'm sure everybody wants to know about the bus. I think it's amazing, and by the way, I am so jealous.
Oh, if you see me during the day, I don't know how jealous you would be. But the relationship with the bus is like a lot like my first girlfriend. You know, it's all new and exciting, but there's some rough patches, I tell you. But it's just the curves on the bus. They're getting to me. They're just like, it's too far up here for me. But I'm getting there, yeah. And I think one of the big parts of the trip I really want to do is learn a lot more about this country, which is like, you know, right at the top of the list to do. So
can I give you a bit of advice about that?
Yeah.
Is that I had no issue driving into an indigenous community, and I've done it so many times, unannounced, uninvited, drive in, and in the bigger communities, there's always an art centre, and if you go to the art centre, you get it's all generally speaking local artists from that community, and you'll see all of the food from that community depicted in the artwork.
Yeah.
And so you get a general feel if they're eating turtle eggs, or if there's berries or seeds or nuts or grass seeds, or they'll be in the drawings. And if you can't see it or you can't understand it, speak to the person in the art center and they'll tell you.
Yeah.
And then I used to then ask if I could speak to somebody, you know, if I can speak to one of the local artists, and then you start a conversation.
Yeah.
The most important thing is that you start a conversation. It doesn't matter if you don't know them. It doesn't matter if you haven't been invited. The most important thing is start a conversation, as you would anywhere else, you know.
Exactly.
And you'll open up a whole door of acknowledgement and a whole door of new information and new knowledge that they may or may not be happy to share with you. That will make you feel so good about food and about culture and about, you know, and a greater understanding of Australia, I think. And, you know, I'm not Australian, I'm an immigrant, I get it. But, you know, for me, that's what it did for me. And so, yeah, that's my bit of advice for you, mate. You get in that bus, arrive in a community, and go to the art centre. First stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
You'll meet some amazing people, mate, that will lead to even more amazing experiences.
Yeah, that's 100% what this whole trip is about.
I love it.
I was little Alfie. There's a little bit about Alfie, and the funny thing is, well, it's not funny, but my little Alfie actually spent his first sort of week in intensive care.
Really?
Yeah. So I sort of just like, as soon as you said that about your little Alfie, I was just like, oh, shit. Like I just knew like what it was like, what you were feeling, and it's such a like it's so scary when you can't, like, you know, you're supposed to help them, you're supposed to be the one that sort of helps them, but you know you can't, like it's way above anything, you know. And I could feel that in the book, and sort of I got that. Obviously, you know, my little Alfie, it was just sort of, it was nowhere near, it wasn't bad at all. It was just his blood levels, his blood's in his sugar or whatever it is. It was just a bit off. So yeah, as soon as you said that, I was just like, oh, that's just, I could feel it. I could feel it in the book. But isn't it a scary time? It's just, you can't help them. You can't do anything.
It is a scary time. And, you know, like I feel for you, man. Like and then for you, it's your first, right?
Yeah, first. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, isn't that weird? It's like you get this sort of you read maybe you read some books, maybe you didn't. You get loads of unwanted advice from everyone around you about being a father and whatever, like as a bloke, right?
Yeah.
Nothing prepares you for what you didn't expect, right?
No,
You didn't
that's right.
expect as a first-time father to be in hospital and not being allowed to touch a kid. You didn't
No.
expect to, do you know what I mean? And I can only,
Yeah.
you know, for Loz, it was, Alfie was Loz's first, it was my third. And so, you know, it was Alfie, my Alfie was 2 months preemie. And you know, his weight dropped down under a kilo, and it was, you know, it was tough, like not being able to touch him, not being able to hold him. But it was tougher watching what it was like for Loz, sort of going through, I guess, that moment where it's your first child and everything that you expected is now not happening. You know, you expect to be handed your baby, you expect to give your baby the first bath, all that sort of stuff, and it's now an absolute no. And it's not only an absolute no, it's an absolute no for months. And that, I mean, that's tough. And I think, you know, on the mental health aspect of stuff, I think blokes really don't appreciate the toll it has on your mental health when you're going through that, because you're just in the moment trying to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? And so you're pushing your feelings and your sort of, you know, I don't know, like your own insecurities about the situation are sidelined because you're just trying to, like treading water, trying to keep your lips above the water, trying to work out what's going on and try and support your partner and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I think the aftermath of that, you got to be careful. You know, you need to look after yourself through that as a bloke, and understand not only what's going on in your family unit that's now dramatically changed, but you can't forget about yourself. You know, you need to just take a moment for yourself and make sure you get help if you need it. You know.
Yeah, and that sort of, you know, and that goes with like just life in general with us blokes, isn't it? Like,
100%.
Yeah, we just and I've learned this firsthand. Like, what happened with Masterchef, I was like what I am today. Like, rewind before Masterchef, I was a completely different person, had a different sort of view on what mental health meant, and now it's like, now I'm on the other side looking back, I can see the struggles and how hard it is to, you know, break out of them, because it's like stigma that we've built up. And it starts with, like, my biggest job is being a father, and I can see now, I'm like, I've got to mold this little kid to, you know, sort of want to grow like I am now, like being able to talk about my emotions. It's okay to cry. Like, let's just talk it out. Let's see what's going on. And it wasn't like I would be, before Masterchef, I would have been like, you'll be right, get on with it. But like, it's just, I'm thankful that Masterchef, you know, the whole, my journey there and how it ended. Now that I've sort of got and sorted myself out, I'm so thankful for the, you know, the journey and how it sort of evolved me as a person.
Isn't it, do you think it's funny as well, is that you're more aware of your actions as a person and a father? You're more aware of behavior patterns in yourself, you know, if you've had some sort of, like, you know, stress or anxiety or any kind of mental health issues, you're more aware. And I think it was interesting, the other day, it was a reminder for me. I actually seen it on a website. I was researching about, it's like, for me, it's like the first time I've had a 3.5-year-old boy. I've had girls before, and you know, there are moments where I struggle with his behavior or you know, the way he's thinking about things, and I don't understand it. And so I go searching for help. You know what I mean? And one of the things I came across was, you know, it was a video of, you know, like a father just going, like, you know, the kid was playing up as you know, 3.5-year-old boys do, you know, playing up, hamming everything up and whatever, and like crying like a baby and putting on a baby voice and you know, having a whinge or whatever, and then an angry sort of, not an angry dad, but like a bit of an angry dad going, you know, stop crying like a baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just it was an advert as almost like as a reminder of don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, instead of saying stop crying, say I'm listening.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel as if the older I get, and maybe I've had more kids or whatever it might be, or that I've gone through stuff that I wish somebody had said to me, or just instead of saying, shut up and just go on with it, I'll get back to work or whatever. You know, there's probably moments in my life where if somebody had said, hi, I'm listening, what's going on? It might have led me on a different path, right?
Yeah.
And it's so important with kids. It's so important with kids. You know, they are sponges. They only know what you teach them. So you got to do it the right way.
Yeah, 100%. I like, that's the one pact that me and my wife made, is like, we're doing this together. This little little, you know, canvas. It's our most important job. Our normal jobs, they take a back seat to him, you know.
100%.
So yeah. That's my whole list done. We got through that end bit pretty quick. We were hanging around here for a bit, didn't we?
We did hang around there for a bit.
Yeah.
It's good though. Can I ask you something about having kids, new father, one kid?
Yeah.
How do you deal with the ups and downs with your partner? Like, I've always sort of very much said, if your relationship's broken, the family's broken. And so therefore your relationship needs to come first. And a lot of people struggle with that. Like, they struggle with you saying that, you know, your relationship with your partner should come before the kids. But in my view, if your relationship with your partner is broken, then it's impossible to have a great relationship with the family. How do you take that? How do you deal with that?
I think I'm lucky because I got shot as a wife. So she has drilled it into me, and you know, a relationship is work. You got to work on the relationship day to day, I think, and you know, and you got to grow together, because if one's growing and one's not, then, you know, it starts to break down. So I think we just we've put in the hard yards early on, and we just don't really have down. Like, we've sort of we get each other, and we know that each day we've just got to work on the relationship and talk everything out. Don't let it bottle up to the end, and then it's all on. And yeah, it's pretty smooth sailing here. It is. It's been a lot of work. And Sean, she's normally guiding the ship around. Yeah. And then that makes for, you know, bringing Alfie up quite easy, because, you know, the relationship's really rock solid. And
it sounds like you're much the same. It's like the relationship needs to, you gotta spend time on that relationship, because if it's broken, you're screwed.
Yeah, you do. You've just got to nurture the relationship, otherwise it just goes nowhere. And you're constantly growing as people, so you know, you just got to, you know, put the work in, and then add a little 2.5-year-old in. Jesus,
hard work, aren't they?
Oh, everything is question. I answer questions until we get around to nothing. Like, it's the answer is nothing. Like, how do we get to nothing?
Yeah. How about your Alfie the other day when he was standing on the workbench? You were making what did you make? Chicken something?
When was that?
And he was standing on the bench top. It was like a day or two ago.
Yeah.
And he was standing and he was like giving you all of that stuff, and I was like, "Oh man, like, you're in for a while."
Oh yeah.
Like, that's nothing. That's the beginning of trouble, is what that is.
Oh, I know. He's got my sort of wildness, like, want to just adventure, and then Sean's communication mouth. So it's like the two best parts of it just jammed together. So I'm in for trouble. One
But
looks really good at
patience.
the moment.
Somebody's just said patience. Yeah, it's so
Patience.
Rach. Rach has said a couple of amazing things actually, which is so on the point. I'm assuming Rach has got kids. Is patience is something I have not had my entire life for anything, but it's certainly when it comes to kids, it's something that you need to learn. You need to learn it, and it's so hard sometimes when your life is going on around you. There's deadlines, there's stuff to be done, there's whatever, and sometimes a child's learning inquisitiveness doesn't fit in with your demanding schedule of stuff that needs to be done at the moment. Man, you just need to forget about your schedule for 10 minutes. It'll pass. Message whoever or whatever it was that you were supposed to be doing and go, hey, I want to be an hour late, because 10 minutes will turn into an hour pretty quick. And just, you know, and be patient. You know, I think it's a valid point.
I think that also the biggest thing is, like, you got to remember they're kids. They're not thinking like we are. Like, you know, that when they spilled the milk or something, they're not thinking like us humans are, us adults are. You know, they're kids. Kids, get out on their level and just have a chat to them about it. Like,
exactly.
That's the biggest thing I do. I just got to remember in the back of my head, he's a 2.5-year-old. He knows nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
that's it.
Well, mate, it's been great talking to you, I've got to say.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see you, mate. And I know we text a bit, but it's nice to, I've got to say, it's nice to see you. You know, it's nice to see your face and hear your words, and I'm, mate, with you on that bus. I'm going to steal it when you finished it.
Yeah. Oh, well, mate, you know, we'll be hitting Melbourne as soon as, you know, probably like January. So you should see the outdoor kitchen. I've got a few things lined up. It's
Very good.
Quite a special outdoor kitchen. So
wow.
we'll try to hook up down there and
really, yeah, we'll do a couple of cooking things live. That'll be good.
Awesome,
nice one.
Awesome. Thanks for the chat, mate.
And you, mate. It's been great. See you, buddy. Take care.
See you, mate.
Ciao. Bye.